But the dimensions of its threat have loomed large on the horizon for many years. Whatever our hopes may be for the future, for reducing this threat or living with it, there is no escaping either the gravity or the totality of its challenge to our survival and to our security. A challenge that confronts us in unaccustomed ways in every sphere of human activity.
This is important work. It has made a real difference in the lives of our people. And it could not have happened had we not worked together. And yet, around the globe, we are seeing the same forces of global integration that have made us interdependent also expose deep fault lines in the existing international order.
The president-elect is coming into office at a moment when there are upheavals in many parts of the world simultaneously. You have India, Pakistan, you have the jihadist movement. So he can't really say that it's one problem, that it's the most important one. But he can give a new impetus to American foreign policy, partly because the reception of him is so extraordinary around the world. I think his task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis.
We see it in the headlines every day. Around the world, refugees flow across borders in flight from brutal conflict. Financial disruptions continue to weigh upon our workers and entire communities. Across vast swaths of the Middle East, basic security, basic order has broken down.
It would be a serious mistake for the United States to abandon our responsibilities or cede the mantle of leadership for global peace and security.
And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control.
We see too many governments muzzling journalists and quashing dissent and censoring the flow of information. Terrorist networks use social media to prey upon the minds of our youth, endangering open societies.
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Powerful nations contest the constraints placed on them by international law.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
By international law. In order to move forward, though, we do have to acknowledge that the existing path to global integration requires a course correction by international law. Alternative visions of the world have pressed forward, both in the wealthiest countries and in the poorest. Religious fundamentalism, the politics of ethnicity or tribe or sect, aggressive nationalism, crude populism, sometimes from the far left, but more often from the far right, which seeks to restore what they believe was a better, simpler age, free of outside contamination.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned. No secret is revealed.
So the answer cannot be a simple rejection of global integration. Instead, we must work together to make sure the benefits of such integration are broadly shared, and that the disruptions, economic, political, and cultural, that are caused by integration are squarely addressed.
Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger, and yet no war has been declared.
A quarter century after the end of the Cold War, the world is by many measures less violent and more prosperous than ever before. And yet our societies are filled with uncertainty and unease and strife.
In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack.
Despite enormous progress, as people lose trust in institutions, governing becomes more difficult, and tensions between nations become more quick to surface. And so I believe that at this moment, we all face a choice. We can choose to press forward with a better model of cooperation and integration, or we can retreat into a world sharply divided.
Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it.
And we can only realize the promise of this institution's founding, to replace the ravages of war with cooperation, if powerful nations, like my own, accept constraints.
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind, peace and security.
And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security.
The word peacekeeping does not appear in the Charter of the United Nations. But for the past 7 decades, our collective ability to maintain international peace and security
will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment.
Thank you very much, Minister Westervelt, for calling us together at this critical moment to discuss peace and security.
My vision is 2 states, living side by side in peace and security.
I want to talk about our common responsibilities in the face of a common danger. The events of recent weeks may have helped to illuminate that challenge for some, but the dimensions of its threat have loomed large on the horizon for many years. Whatever our hopes may be for the future, for reducing this threat or living with it, there is no escaping either the gravity or the totality of its challenge to our survival and to our security. A challenge that confronts us in unaccustomed ways in every sphere of human activity.
Sometimes I'm criticized in my own country for professing a belief in international norms and multilateral institutions, but I am convinced that in the long run, giving up some freedom of action, not giving up our ability to protect ourselves or pursue our core interests, but binding ourselves to international rules over the long term enhances our security.
Our way of life is under attack.
We are all stakeholders in this international system, and it calls upon all of us to invest in the success of institutions to which we belong. And the good news is that many nations have shown what kind of progress is possible when we make those commitments. Consider what we've accomplished here over the past few years.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
If the unspeakable happened to us, and we should all understand that ultimately our world will be more secure if we are prepared to help those in need and the nations who are carrying the largest burden with respect to accommodating these refugees. If the unspeakable happened to us, there are a lot of nations right now that are doing the right thing. But many nations, particularly those blessed with wealth, the benefits of geography, they can do more to offer a hand. Time and again, human beings have believed that they finally arrived at a period of enlightenment, only to repeat then cycles of conflict and suffering, and to recognize that I can best serve my own people. I can best look after my own daughters by making sure that my actions seek what is right for all people and all children and your daughters and your sons. This is what I believe, that all of us can be co-workers with God.
Pope Francis is to take part in the final meeting of the World Day of Prayer for Peace when he travels to Assisi on Tuesday, the 20th of September. The World Day of Prayer for Peace concludes a 3-day event organised by the Sant'Egidio community and entitled this year, Thirst for Peace, Religions and Cultures in Dialogue. It sees the presence and participation of some 450 religious leaders of different faiths gathered to pray for peace and strengthen dialogue in the spirit of Assisi. As the Bishop of Assisi, Domenico Sorrentino, explained to me, the event takes place in a historic moment for peace building as we witness so many situations of war, terrorism and widespread violence.
It's a great occasion to bring people together, bring the believers of all religions in this moment where the world is facing a big crisis, as we see every day. Big crisis of globalization, big crisis also of wars, fought in pieces, like the Holy Father used to say. And this occasion of grace, because we are together not only to reflect, this is important, but also to pray, each one according his own tradition, but we want to reaffirm the importance of the faith, the importance of prayer, the importance of the grace of God, if we want really build a new world, a world of peace.
But the dimensions of its threat have loomed large on the horizon for many years. There is no escaping either the gravity or the totality of its challenge to our survival.
It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources.
Basic security, basic order has broken down.
It sees the presence and participation of some 450 religious leaders of different faiths gathered to pray for peace and strengthen dialogue.
This is important work. We are all stakeholders in this international system. Time and again, human beings have believed that they finally arrived at a period of enlightenment. This is what I believe, that all of us can be co-workers with God.